On this episode of the Sliding Whiteboard, we have a special guest, Mike Cappelluti. He's a special friend of mine. We actually met from Seton
Special
Hall.
friend.
Special friend, special friend.
How special?
It's pretty special. Let me just get to the intro.
Awesome.
So he's a friend of mine. We're very close. We got very close throughout school, and he started his own band, Moonwater, and we want him on the call today or whatever we call this, to talk about his band. And yeah, and Frank, you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, no, Mike was our RA and our street mate. Very cool guy. Moonwater is a dope band, and we fuck with it.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
So my first question is, how'd you get to Moonwater? Where was the point in your life where you started music? And in a little short summary, how'd you get to Moonwater?
All right. Yeah, cool. Thanks for having me, guys. I mean, it's hard to answer that question, like just in one era of my life, right? Because I feel like it really just been a culmination of everything that I've done musically up to this point. So I could talk a little bit about that without going into my whole life story. But yeah, so I started taking piano lessons when I was 5. Took them for about 6 years. When I turned 11, I was like, Mom, I don't know if I want to take piano lessons anymore. I think I want to be a singer in a rock band. And she was like, well, what about Chris Martin? He can sing and play piano. And I was like, you're right. So I stuck with it, kind of hit that wall, but really took it and ran. Started my own band when I was 11 or 12. We were unintentionally a Green Day cover band. Just about as cringy as it sounds. The falling out in that band was, I called a very serious band meeting and I said, guys, you're both really talented and this has been a lot of fun, but can we play something besides Green Day? Or can we write an original song or something? And they're like, what do you mean? No. So to this day, I don't think they like me very much because I left the band, but we played one show at the Marlboro Recreation Center. We had 60 people show up. It was the best day of my life. And then, yeah, so I got involved in a music program in Red Bank. And from that, met a bunch of very talented people and was in and out of pop rock bands in high school. When I was 13, we won a battle of the bands at the Stone Pony in Asbury Park. And it led us to get a slot at the Bamboozle Music Festival in Asbury. And then the following 2 years after that went well. We also performed at the Skate and Surf Festival, which was in Jackson. And it was, really cool. A lot of really big bands and bands that I had idolized at that point, playing at those festivals. So very motivating to be involved in that, at a young age. I think I was 13, 14, 15 when I played those festivals. And then started getting a lot more into folk music and songwriting. So kind of branched away from being a synthesizer player in a band. I was writing those songs as well, but oh, nice. I'm getting a FaceTime call. Cool. I'm on FaceTime with 3 cool guys and a robot. So, but yeah, so started up a acoustic duo project. That lasted for about 2 years. It was really cool. Signed with a manager, was playing shows in the city. Got a lot of good exposure from that. And then, I went to college and got involved in performing solo. And my freshman year of college, I was writing songs in the Aquinas Hall stairwells. Wrote this unnecessarily sad boy album. Hindsight, very good learning experience for me to, go through the process of putting together songs, making an album, recording it. Spent that summer out on tour in support of it, which was cool. The shows were pretty hit or miss. Obviously, not a big name, but there were some nights where the room was full and some nights where there was nobody there. But going through those growing pains of performing and whatnot was good. But at that point, I think I kind of got exhausted with performing, and started to question if that was like really the route that I wanted to take with music. Um, so in college, just because I was so busy, like got involved in songwriting for other bands, and then like had a decent amount of success with that. Signed a publishing deal, and like still continued writing for those bands, and getting involved in more projects, which was great because I was kind of narrowed into like one sector of music and folk and singer songwriter and pop rock and whatnot, but getting exposure to electronic music and rap and trap, like very good change of pace. Learned a lot like about production and songwriting from that for sure. Um, and then yeah, so like eventually like songwriting was going well. Um, like the bands that I was working with are happy with their songs. The projects were going well, and I was like, you know what, like if this is going as well as it is, then um, why don't I try doing my own thing? I think part of it was also like the existential dread of graduating college and having a full-time job, and I'm like, I have 3 days off every week. Like, what am I going to do with it? So that's eventually how I landed on Moonwater. And even as a band, like been together about a year now. Still like very new, just getting the chemistry right, figuring out and exploiting everybody's strengths as a writer, and then leveraging that to like put out the best final product. But we're at a point where we're extremely excited about the songs that we had put out, and the beauty of it is now that we have those songs out, like we're even more excited for the stuff that's yet to come out. And alongside with everybody else in due time, we're eager for this all to slow down and to get back out there. Because we had played our EP release show, and totally we were riding an emotional high from that. Like sold out the place. It was just a really like special night for us. Felt like the start of something really great. Had a bunch of shows on the calendar. I had some conversations in the works for not one but two different national tours, and like we were very excited about potentially doing something with that. But obviously, Corona came around, and we feel very confident that if doors were opening and opportunities were happening at such like a young point in our career, that we just have to keep at it and keep cranking out music, and then we'll be ready when everybody else is ready.
No, yeah, I totally agree. You guys should just take it by stride at this point. And going through what you were talking about when you were talking about folk music, because I met you when you were writing your folk music and you had your folk music out, and then it was just weird because I saw your room, I saw a Damn vinyl signed by Kendrick in your room, and then you're writing folk music, and I was like, this kid's like all over the place with his music taste. And then like a month later, you're showing me a song that's like an EDM remix of a song that you like sang in like one of that. So like my initial thoughts were all over the place. Like, oh, he likes Damn, but he writes folk music. And now look at this EDM track that I absolutely love, but he hates.
Yeah. I mean, I never was all over the board like that. But then, so it's funny, that project you're talking about. So I had written a song when I was 14 or 15. We had released it. It was fine. Like people liked the song, but it's not like it blew up or anything, probably had like 1,000 streams or whatever. And some EDM artist from Portugal stumbled on it. And he was like, "Hey, I really love this song. Like, can you send me like the vocal stems for it?" And I was like, "Sure." Like, what the hell am I doing with this? And like the song went #1 in Portugal. It was like ahead on the charts of like Calvin Harris and like pretty surreal. And like honestly, that kind of project is nice because like you don't really have to lift a finger. Like my work was done like back when I was 14. I wrote the song and sang on it and recorded it in the studio, and that was it. Like after that, I was just able to sit back and watch what happened. But I think I like that I can take a back seat in projects that like involve my music, because I know that from experience, not a lot of people are like that. You know, some people want full control of their idea and their baby, but I really just like seeing any kind of twist or spin that somebody can put on it, because it's certainly something that I wouldn't be thinking of myself, and that's something that I can learn from.
Yeah, and now like now that speaking like of now Moonwater, I know Frank had a question about how you guys came together.
Yeah,
Sure.
no, and you guys are just so young, and you guys, I feel like you guys already have so much chemistry. Like you guys really bounce off each other. So like, what do you guys look for when you're looking for like a collective of people?
So it's funny like how the band started, because one of my long time I had tweeted out, hey, like anybody want to start a band, like almost like jokingly. I probably was like listening to the 1975 one night, and I was like, man, this is so good, like I got to do something like this, you know. And my friend was like, hey, like I don't know if this is real, but like, do you want to do it? And this was CJ, he plays guitar in the band. He studied at Berklee College of Music, so I knew that. I mean, from playing with him from a young age, like I knew that he had serious chops. But you know, like with all the music knowledge that he had from school, I knew that it would be really cool to see what would happen and get together and write. So we got together, and the very first song that we wrote was "In My Mind." In My Mind took on like a whole bunch of different shapes. This is the third song on the EP. Like, you know, it took a lot of um, you know, it started like from that first session, and then we just kind of added to it as we went. But you know, I was super excited about how that song had turned out, like just on the very first session. So you know, we kind of knew that there was something here, chemistry wise. And he had a friend from home who also studied at Berklee College of Music. So um, this was Chris. He plays guitar in the band as well. He had studied songwriting in school, and is extremely creative. So CJ invited him to one of the next sessions, and then the three of us clicked immediately. The three of us all write, so we knew, okay, like, you know, we have three writers here, and it works, and like everybody brings something different to the table stylistically. Um, so like that honestly was the foundation that we felt like we needed, to be able to say, okay, like, you know, now we can bring in a bass player and a drummer, and you know, they can help us step up the way that we're arranging these songs, and the way that we're performing them live. Kay had worked at the studio that Chris had worked at the time, so Kay came out as the drummer. He also studied at Berklee. I In like the year or year and a half that we've done this band, I've never ever heard like the kid miss a beat. It's just like insane. I remember the first session, I knew that like that he was gonna be like in for the long haul, because I he was like, "Oh, I didn't get a chance to listen to the song. Like, can you just give me 1 sec?" And he you know, plugged in his headphones and listened to the shitty demo that we put together. And he just like, you know, was annotating like a couple of things that was like way over my head. And we started playing the song. He listened to it one time, made a couple annotations, and like did not miss a beat the entire song. Like every fill, every single thing was spot on. Like it's just a machine. It was awesome. And Eric, who plays bass, he actually went to Seton Hall as well. Phenomenal guitar player, and knew that that would translate well over to bass. So, and he's somebody else who also brings something like stylistically very different to the band. So it's cool to kind of have that blending influence, and then also that foundation of writers, where, you know, if one person's on writer's block, um, you know, hopefully one or two of the other guys can do something to motivate the guy who's struggling. And you know, I could say like that's extremely relevant right now, like in that um, you know, I feel like I've been struggling to crank some stuff out writing, you know, the last month or so. But you know, they've been sending me some stuff, and that got me super inspired. And you know, I've been writing a lot this past week, so like, extremely happy to be back doing that. And that's kind of what you need, you know, like you need people that are gonna challenge you to think outside of what you're used to stylistically, and people that can keep you motivated. And you know, I could tell you that I'm not like the most musically knowledgeable person in the room, especially like with all their backgrounds. And you know, I feel like some singers in bands like might be intimidated by that because you know there's like the old saying about how you know singers in the bands are you know divas and egomaniacs and whatnot. But like I absolutely love just taking a step back and just like watching these guys like do what they do. And I'm just super excited to be a part of that. And I'd say that's like the third thing too, is just like, you know, can everybody's personalities mesh? Like, can everybody keep their egos in check? And it's like there hasn't been any problem with that in the entire duration of the band, and that's like a very good sign for me as well.
Nice. And so we all listen to the EP. We've been listening it to majority of the day. And the first song on the EP is Mary Jane. And my first question from that song is, what did your favorite sweater look like, and did you ever get it back?
I think it might have been a flannel or something. No, never got it back.
Never got it back. So
No.
there is truth to that, to those lyrics.
Yeah, I'd say Mary Jane like weaves in and out of being true and just being kind of like a
Story.
yeah, like a vague story that you know different people can put their own characters to, you know.
Yeah, and one of my favorite parts is towards the end of the track when like you start screaming and like you can really hear your vocals. Was that something that you recorded or something you wrote when you first wrote the song, or did you include that later on throughout the process?
No, so we had written a demo of that song. It was actually the first song that we all did like completely on FaceTime. And then we got together that you know just started running through the set of songs that we had. And you know, we were kind of like looking for like the song does build a lot. We were kind of looking for a way to, you know, just kind of like make that all explode at the end. We had tried a couple of different things instrumentally to do that. But we kind of felt like we were kind of maxed out at like how dynamic we could be from like an instrumentation standpoint. And then I think like jokingly, I was like, that part came up and I just started screaming and I was like, oh, actually, that was like kind of cool. And like, I mean, Matt, I know that you know, and Frank, you probably have seen an open mic or two, but like, if you knew me like 2 or 3 years ago, that like would never ever be something that I would be doing like on stage or on a recording. Like it used to be very breathy, soft toned, John Mayer-y. So like that to me was exciting too to do something that was just totally not my part of my brand, I guess, you know.
It definitely caught my attention. Do you guys have anything to say about that track? Talking about Mary Jane.
I just thought it was really interesting because this is obviously the first song on the EP, and I know I texted Matt right when I first heard this, is that your voice sounds a lot like Chris Martin from Coldplay. So I thought it like obviously you drew some influence from it because you told a story about how your mom said Chris Martin plays the piano and is in a rock band, but are Coldplay some of the people you draw a lot of inspiration from when you're writing your songs?
So it's funny because I mean I get so much shit for this, but like I grew up like loving Coldplay. Like one of my first concerts was their Rush of Blood to the Head tour, PNC Art Center, like you know 2003 or 2005 or whatever it was. And you know I love Coldplay, and I could probably sing you every Coldplay song. Like do I listen to them every day now? No. But I think that because I was so into them, like when I was learning how to sing and you know started writing music, I think you know I just subconsciously started mimicking like some of the inflections that you know Chris does like when he's recording. And so it's not like I'm actively like, oh, like Coldplay does this, like I should try to integrate this, because I think that they just played such a big role in my life musically, like in my like musical upbringing, that it's just something subconsciously that happens, you know. But listen, that's a huge compliment. I'll take it. Like
And I was telling them before, like, I went to when you guys performed at the Saint for your EP.
Yeah.
And I think Dan had a question.
Oh yeah, well we were talking about this before we were all on, but what was it like performing at such like a historic venue and to hear people in the crowd singing along to your lyrics that you wrote?
Oh yeah, it was really cool. I've played at the Saint a couple of times, like up to like leading up to Moonwater, but like that was definitely the most special point for me. I had kicked off that tour that I did for my solo album at the Saint. Probably had like 80 to 90 people show up, like which still felt like good because that was like a very new thing for me. But I mean, we were just totally blown away at the turnout, and then like when we got up on stage and we started playing Ghosts, which was the first song in the set that was off the EP that anybody wouldn't know. I mean, I literally didn't have to sing like some of the verses, and like that I think one of the choruses like I just didn't sing at all. And listen, like I don't like to, I don't want to like romanticize something too much, right? I mean, like there's this historic venue. It's like 150 to 170 capacity. Yes, like we sold it out. Like that's super exciting for like a local band. I'm in no way was I walking away from the show like, holy shit, we made it. But like I was walking away like this is like such an awesome start. Because like it really seemed like people were showing up because they were genuinely interested in the music. And like the response to the EP songs after the EP was only out for a handful of days was just awesome. Like it was just so cool to be part of that.
Awesome.
So now going to the second track, Ghost. A talking point for me was there's like backup vocals in it, and I remember you asked if anyone could come in and help with like harmony or something.
Sure.
Was that did you guys get help from someone else? Was that you? Was that like someone else in the band? Because I know you do most of the vocals or almost all, right?
Yeah. So I was pulling people from like I was just literally pulling people off the street for In My Mind because it was like a gang vocal part. But Ghost, there's a lot of vocal layering that happens. But that's just the chorus of Me's. There's that pre-chorus part that if you're spending the time, you can just spend it here for a while. And we were kind of trying to get like a synth pad sound that would I guess kind of give like a choir feel as well, but like just couldn't quite find something that was working. So just kind of did it ourselves and then blended it into the patch.
Yeah, it reminded me of kind of like Francis and the Lights, some of like what he does in his music. But I don't know, that like stood out to me. And then towards the middle of the track, when you guys break off into like the instrumental, and then you come back in with the vocals, I think my favorite part was when she said, "I know you think I'm crazy, girl. I know you're crazy. I can see it when you walk in the room." That was probably my favorite part of the track when like listening to it. And I think when I first heard this EP, in my mind it was my favorite, but listening over like 5 times, I think Ghost might be my favorite now.
Yeah,
That's just
I
something
mean,
I wanted to say.
I love that part as well. And honestly, a lot of the feedback that I've gotten is that people like that part, but it's kind of funny where that part came from because like it initially wasn't part of Ghosts at all. It was the bridge of another song that we like were working on very early, and the rest of the song sucked, but we loved that part, and we were kind of like looking at Ghosts like in its current form, and we were saying, all right, like love the verses, love the chorus, love the pre-chorus, but like the bridge just isn't there. We hate every other part of the other song. Like, let's just take the bridge and make it work into Ghosts. It did. We were kind of on the fence about it for a little bit, just because like if you look at Ghosts, I think it's like 4 minutes and 50 seconds. Pretty unorthodox for like a single. There's like a 30-second intro in the song. Like we knew that like we're gonna put this out and like 20% of the people are gonna be like, all right, it's taking too long to get started. Like I'm just gonna turn this off. Like we know that like this isn't the single that like we're pitching to the music industry guys where we're like, yo, like we have a your next top song. Like it takes a while for the song to get going, but yeah, like for the people that stick around, like for that part, like I do really love that part, and it felt so right that like we were okay to sacrifice, having the song at 3:30.
While we're on the topic of Ghost, what was shooting the music video like?
Well, the music video was a ton of fun, but of course we picked a day where it was raining, which wound up working like for the aesthetic of the video, but we were probably outside for 3-4 hours, like in this like very soggy ghost costume. Got like a lot of awesome support from the guy who directed it, Jake Feldman, and yeah, it was fun. I mean, it was, if not anything else, it was like a really awesome band bonding day. I mean, from like a videography standpoint, Jake did an awesome job with it. Like we did not pay any attention to being consistent in the characters. Like I'm the male ghost, I'm the female ghost. The owner of the saint plays the male ghost at the end. We have like 3 different people playing the female ghost. Like our character consistency, like off. But like it was fun. The point of it like wasn't to be like a well polished Hollywood music video. Like it's just like, 5 guys fucking around with with an Amazon or bed sheets like pack.
Yeah, well, I guess for the experience, it's also good for you guys as a band, and also getting more content, not just strictly just music, something for people to look at. Because I know you guys have a music lyric video as well, right?
Yeah, we have lyric videos for the 3 songs.
So, yeah, it's definitely something that you guys. It's fun to watch. So, nonetheless, I guess maybe we can
Thanks.
see more.
Yeah,
And then,
totally.
The last track, In My Mind, that was originally my favorite song of the EP. And I like first 3 listens, I texted you about it. I was like, "Yeah, I really like this song," and I think part of it was, I mean, when it breaks down in the middle of the song, that's probably my favorite part of the EP. Like when it's just solely like the guitar and the drums. But I don't know why. I think it's because Ghost is catchy, but that's still my favorite part of the EP and In My Mind. Like when it just breaks off. But I don't know. That's just my opinion. I don't know what Dan and Frank haven't seen their notes.
No, yeah, I definitely agree. The part with, like you said, when it breaks down, I thought that was one of the sickest parts of the whole EP.
Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I love this track. I loved all 3 tracks especially, but even on this track, I heard a lot of the Coldplay influence it had on you. So I don't know. I'd really love to hear that, especially after hearing the story about how you ended up starting your own rock band.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, so this part, like, initially, like, it wasn't really like well received, like it within the band. Like it kind of took us a while to develop it because I mean, you're talking like a radical shift in the song. I was just messing around on an old synthesizer one day. The thing like barely stays in tune, so it was a miracle that we got it to stay in tune during the recording. But I had just started playing this on the synthesizer, and then Chris started layering that guitar track over it, and then in the studio, like did some like very fun things with the OP1. Had like a lot of very interesting synth textures going on throughout that song. And yeah, like, if you look at that song from a structure standpoint, like, we really went all out in that second chorus when, there's like 10 different voices singing. So it's like from there, like there was really no other way to complete that song without like just, coming up with some epic instrumental outro, because like anything else that we would have done vocally after that just would have been totally underwhelming. There's like no bridge that you could put there without totally changing the pace of the song. Otherwise, like the song would have just died after that point.
Yeah. And I actually have one more question about your performance at the Saint. I heard from Matt and your brother that you played a couple unreleased tracks while you were there. Do you have any plans for the future with that?
Yeah, there are some songs that we have that we're really taking a strong look at, and we're like, do we want to do this on the EP? We had narrowed it down to these 3 songs. Like, there are still songs that we feel very happy with, but in our eyes, like the unreleased tracks that happened before the EP, we feel like they're good songs. Like, if we have to play a long set, like we feel comfortable and confident to play them. Um, But I would say, like, for, like, the new unreleased tracks, like, we actually opened up with the only new, unreleased track, and, like, that song I love. Um, we're very excited about the stuff that's ahead, um, but, we don't wanna, like, settle too much on recording every song that we wrote, like, kinda in phase 1, you know?
Mhm.
'Cause, like, again, like, you look at these 3 songs, like, Ghost is 450, Mary Jane is, probably more of a punk rock song than, like Mary Jane
Exactly
in
what
the
I
grand,
said.
yeah, like in the grand scheme of our discography, like probably very strange for us to like start our whole career with Mary Jane, because like our sound isn't necessarily going in that direction. Like I mean, to some extent, like it is, like we love like the blaring guitars and like keeping the songs edgy and kind of like Killers esque, um, but that like likely will be the outlier, like once we continue making music. So like there's that. Ghost is, almost 5 minutes, and In My Mind is like, don't get me wrong, we love In My Mind, but we know it's not a radio song. There's just it's like very technical, and like it's like the 3:30 song with like a hook chorus that sticks. Like we know that song, like people enjoy it, and we enjoy it, and we love that. But um, I would say those were the 3 songs we felt most confident about, and now we're trying to see. Okay, we look at these 3 songs. What could we have done better? What do we want to do better? What do we want to integrate? So the very long answer to that is like some of them we're really excited about, but I think what we're most excited about is like how we're going to take these 3 songs and build off of them.
It's actually pretty interesting, that point you made about Mary Jane sounding like punk rock. Because I know I told Matt when I first heard it, I thought the first half of the song sounded like a Coldplay song, and then I thought it kind of developed into something that sounded like an early 2000s like Blink-182 or a Neighborhood song.
Right.
Yeah. I just thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, like I'm screaming and stuff. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to be screaming in all of our music. I mean, hey, maybe I guess it's too early to tell. I can't rule anything out, but
Be some signature.
maybe, I don't know. Funny story actually, like about Mary Jane is I had woken up very early on the day that we recorded Mary Jane, and by the time we got to vocal tracking, which is like 11 o'clock, I just did not have any energy to like be screaming and have like that gritty, like strong voice, and like I just could not get going. Like the engineer was like, "You really like don't sound so great. Like, do you want some tea? Like, is there, whatever? Like, what could we do?" And eventually, what we wound up doing was we turned out every light in the live room. He lit a whole bunch of candles, and I stripped down to my boxers. And usually, like, you have like a mounted mic, like with the pop filter and everything. But instead of staying in one place, he just like ripped it off the mount, and I was like holding it in my hand. I literally was just like cupping the mic in my hand, just like running around the room, like jumping up and down, like doing anything that I could to like just channel enough grit for like 3 or 4 minutes. Like thankfully it worked, but I don't know, just kind of like a fun side story about that.
Another like side story that I want to ask about is when you guys performed at the Saint. I got a good look of when I don't remember what track it was, but you were holding like the mic stand, and you just dropped it like a fucking rock. What was that about? What was going through your head when you did that, or did you just do it like off instinct?
So I have 2 mics when I perform. One of them is like just the regular lead vocal mic. This one that I use the majority of the time. I do have a mic though that I use. So what I do is like oh boy, I'm gonna try to explain this like in a non-technical way. Like I plug the mic into my keyboard, and then based on what I play on the keyboard, it restricts everything that I sing into just those keys. So it's kind of like a cool auto-tune-y vocoder type effect where like I'm manipulating my voice through the keyboard. And there are a couple of songs that I use that for. But at that point, I knew once I finished singing that part that I wasn't going to need that mic for the rest of the night. So I just threw it off stage.
I just remember seeing my reaction was just fuck, what did he just do that?
And this is I honestly I didn't look. I totally might have clocked somebody in the head with the mic stand, and if I did, I'm very sorry.
Well, yeah, that's pretty much all the questions that we have.
I think we have one more. I think we're all curious about why Moonwater, like what went into that name, and like what does that mean to you?
So, we struggled with the name for such a long time. When we played our first show, it was the Seton Hall SAB Carnival. We were like, hell yeah, like let's go. We have a show. And we were like, what's the name? All week. We're like, I don't know. Someone suggests something, 2 people like it, the other person doesn't. 4 people like it, the 5th person doesn't. And like, to some extent, like you need everybody to like the name. I mean, it's going to be with us for a long time. And unfortunately, like there's no such thing as like a good band name. Like if I was like, hey guys, let's call ourselves Maroon 5. They'd be like, that's so stupid, or like One Republic. They're like band names are corny until the band makes them cool. So I landed on Moonwater because I was watching that old movie, Almost Famous. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's a really great music movie, and the band in the movie is called Stillwater. And I was like, oh, that's a really cool band name. And then like when I was watching that movie was right around the same time when I was just totally into 22 A Million by Bon Iver, and still am. I love that album. It's the comforter of my bed, and there's a song in that album called Moonwater. And I was like, oh, okay, like moon, water, still water, like that works. And it's funny because there's also I was talking to my friend about it like after the fact. Flume he's an Australian EDM artist. He's awesome, and like his name was pulled off of the first song on Forever Ago by Bon Iver. And I was like, like if somebody else like stole a song title of Bon Iver's and made it their band name, then I guess that's allowed. You know what I mean? So so we did that. I'd say like I've always had like a fascination with space and whatnot. So I mean that's probably the extent of like the meaning to it to me. But it was a name that we all agreed on and felt good about. And I think some people think that we're like a dad rock band, like one of those like jam bands. And it is funny because there is like one other band called Moonwater, and they're like these heavy set Santa beard guys from like South Carolina doing like exactly that, like strumming their banjos and mandolins, and like hell yeah to those guys. But a band name's only as cool as you make it, you know what I mean? So whatever people think Moonwater sounds like now or what it's supposed to sound like hopefully we can rewrite that narrative with the new music.
Funny little story. As I was trying to look up lyrics for this, I went on Genius and I just looked up Moonwater Genius, and the Bon Iver thing came up. So I was very curious if Bon Iver had any influence on the name of the band, and now you just answered the question. So
yeah, I mean, it helped me put the word moon in front of the word water, because I couldn't use Stillwater because it was already the name of the band,
No, yeah, but it's definitely interesting. But I guess now, Frank, I guess that's all of our questions, unless I'm wrong. Do you guys have any more questions?
No, I think we covered it all.
Well,
cool, guys.
Thank you so much, Mike, for coming.
Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys, and good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
So, take care.
That was pretty good.
That was awesome.
I think that was really good.
Shit ton of substance, bro.
Yo, Frank,
I cut you the fuck off, man.
you look like a Christmas tree.